Right, today we've got a special guest, got Joe. Joe works for me, and I'm going to show you in this video how we took Joe from this type of drive to something a little bit more like this. So I was working with Joe on his golf swing the other week. I saw some sort of things in his swing which were causing him some issues. They're quite common things that you might struggle with. We managed to help Joe, so I thought I would just share what we did and just run that through that lesson again, because I think there's some things here that can help you. So Joe, if you just want to just kind of hit a drive, just kind of as you were before. So that ball has curved kind of out to the right, and that's definitely missed fairway, and that was kind of the shot that Joe was tending to hit with the driver. He was making pretty good contact, but a lot of the golf balls were curving out to the right like that one. So the first thing we do, you'll notice Joe's got the blast sensor on his golf club. I popped that on and just used the app on my phone to get some data. And what we saw, as you can see the data on the screen there, the two things that jumped out at me, his attack angle was negative, so he was hitting down on the golf ball. And you'll notice there that what we measure as hand speed was quite late. So Joe, if you just want to take your setup to this ball, and that was a pretty common sort of pattern across that. So if you just make a golf swing, Joe, all the way up to the top. So if we just look at impact to begin with, what Joe was doing, and when we look at that face on camera, is his club was hitting down on the golf ball this way. Now, that alone doesn't cause him to miss fairways, but it does rob him of distance. So that's something that we wanted to try and change. But if you go up to the top again, Joe, in the downswing, Joe's hands are going to have some speed. They're going to have different speeds at different parts of the swing. That blast sensor was measuring where Joe's hands are at their fastest. And what we saw was that they were at their fastest too late in the golf swing. So around about here. So at this point here, his hands were starting to accelerate, or they were going at their fastest speed. And what we would generally want is those hands to be accelerating much sooner. So if you just jump out the way, Joe, I'm just going to jump in and explain kind of why this was happening. So when we look from that face on, if I was to make a backswing and all I did in my backswing was turn my shoulders, then my backswing would end here. So I've got a pretty much 90-degree turn, but you'll notice that my arms have only traveled here. So in the backswing, yes, there's some turn through the shoulders, but we also need to have some independent arm swing. And you can see my arms swinging up to the top, which gets me closer to the top of my golf swing. So if my left arm, or my lead arm in the backswing, is moving across my chest, which we've just said it is, at some point in the downswing it needs to move off my chest. Now what we saw with Joe is he was making a pretty good backswing, but his arm was staying pinned to his chest. As he started down, he was turning, he was turning, he was turning. You can start to see where that club is going. It's coming a lot more on the outside, and at some point he needed to get this arm off his chest, otherwise he wouldn't hit the ball. So quite late in his golf swing, he now started to accelerate those hands, and you can see what that club's doing. It's coming very much downwards on the golf ball, and it's coming very much from out to in. So the pattern that Joe had was causing him to swing out to in, hit down, and also have his hand speed a little bit too late. Jump back in, Joe, and we'll go through kind of what we wanted. So again, up to the top when you're ready. Okay, so what we really need for Joe is to feel like his hands are accelerating earlier, but you'll notice from that face on camera that his arms are moving away from his chest. His right arm is starting to get a little bit longer. Okay, so this is the feeling that we gave Joe, and there's two exercises that we did, which I'm going to run through you now, which have really helped him. So, first little exercise. Stick one, if you remember this one. So Joe's going to take an alignment stick, he's going to the top, and his job is to not move the shoulders at all, but his job is to accelerate the hands as quick as he can and stop the hands as quick as he can. So they're accelerating early and then slowing down. When he slows his hands down, that stick should bend in this direction. So this is what I call a hand speed drill. So go ahead and show us the drill that you did, Joe. There we go, perfect. Okay, if you do that again and hold it, there. Now look at the distance between his trail hand and his shoulder. Look at that distance there, and you'll notice that his trail arm is bent, but it's not as bent as it was at the top. So what he's doing is he's accelerating these hands off his chest. Okay, now we look at that down the line camera, that club, or in this case that stick, is never going out this way. Okay, because it's only going out this way when he's turning and pinning his arms to his chest. So do that drill another couple of times for me. Perfect, really good. Really good. Excellent. Okay, one more. Perfect. So grab the stick back up here. So there's a sequence of events that has to happen. The hands will accelerate, but they slow down, and that's especially important with the driver because it's that slowing down of the hands which allows the club to release. If the hands are always accelerating, it's really hard to get the club head to overtake the hands and pass it and square the face. So that was the first little exercise we did. We then went into a really extreme exercise. So if you want to set yourself up, Joe. So the next time we got Joe to hit a ball, and we're going to get Joe to hit one over a short distance, I wanted to give him a really exaggerated feeling. So backswing for me, okay? And the idea here was I wanted him to hold his shoulders, and I said to him literally no shoulder turn at all. He's going to let those arms move down, not necessarily with as much speed as before, and he's going to let those hands and the club release past his body. Now look at where the club face is here. If he does this correctly, these balls, well, he's going to lose these balls in those ferns over there. These are range balls, so it doesn't matter. So I wanted him to, up to the top, no turn, arms work away from his chest. Because his chest is holding back, the arms release early, and he's going to hit these balls left. Okay, so go ahead and see if you can lose me a couple of range balls in those bushes over on the left. Perfect. Like I said, they're range balls, so it doesn't matter. But that's giving, obviously, a super extreme feeling, isn't it? But that's what we're after in this drill. Perfect, okay? Now, whilst that is absolutely useless on a golf course, and he's not going to go and do that, you know, within 2 or 3 swings, we've taken a ball which is high and slicing to a ball which is hooking. So we've changed the pattern completely. The job now is to try and find that kind of happy medium. And I think, you know, the message here is that if you are struggling with your driver, within 2 to 3 swings, you can change that pattern. It's just knowing what to change. Now, the difficult part was trying to regulate how much of that he needs in his swing and trying to find this kind of happy medium, because clearly that's no better than moving it out to the right. So go ahead and take your setup. This time, what I want you to do, keep the speed the same, but you're going to go up to the top. You're going to feel like those arms come down, shoulders don't move. When the club gets to around about here, I just want you to now feel as if the whole body now can turn through and you're actually going to get into a full finish, okay? So still relatively slow speed, but just feel like the arms are starting, but the body can follow. Model student, isn't he? Model student. I mean, that was absolutely perfect. So you see that ball flight is a little lower than we wanted, but we can work on that later, but much, much straighter. Now, you'll notice that there's been some data on the screen from the blast, and that was really helpful because for me to say to Joe, this is what's happening in the golf swing, show him the data, give him a really extreme exercise, and then show him that that was changing the data, he can then see the ball flight changing. He really buys into those changes because he's got a lot of confidence that what I'm saying is correct. We've got data to back it up. We've got a ball flight which backs it up. He's starting to really buy into that, and he's understanding a little bit more about what changes in his golf swing will relate to a change in the ball flight. So when we were doing that little exercise where his hands were passing, we can see that the hand speed, whilst it was much slower, was way better timed. He was accelerating the arms at the right point, and that influenced his attack angle. And then as we went into hit some full shots, as we just did there, we started to get some much, much better results. So go ahead, Joe. Same thing as that last one. You're going to feel that the arms start down, so up to the top. Arms work off the chest. Once you get to about here, then you can turn through with everything. That's it. Nearly, a little up the right, but it's better than the first one we hit. That's good. So that just needs to feel like the arms are just working over the chest a little bit more. So that's a little bit more of this feeling through impact. Just letting those arms kind of release past the body. Okay, it's like that heel, isn't it? It's in the fairway, but that's okay. Okay, you see that ball actually moving a little bit more right to left. So at this stage, in Joe's progress and the lesson, yeah, we want to hit some nice shots, but it's really for Joe to have an idea what he's trying to do, create some feelings and some ideas, which we do with those drills, and then hit shots really paying attention to the ball flight and, you know, really starting to make changes based on what the ball is doing. So he's starting to react to the ball as opposed to just going and hitting 20 or 30 shots and the balls go where they were. So we managed to finish off with some much better data, some much better shots, and you can see that on the screen. And that didn't take that long. Now for Joe to take it to the course and do it under pressure in competitive environment, yeah, that might take a bit longer. But it just shows you that within a relatively short space of time, provided we know what's happening, we can change the goal swing. So if you're a slicer, you come over the top, you hit down, you spend too much time looking for the balls on the right, there's a very good chance that you'll be struggling with the same things that Joe was. Those exercises can help you, just like they helped Joe, get some better drives and have more fun on the golf course.